Regardless of what they're called, requirements for entering information on paper are the same and provide the needed communication to ensure safe transportation of hazardous materials. This program will show you how to follow the map, how to complete and read shipping papers for hazardous material shipment. In the first segment, we'll cover general requirements and the proper sequence of a typical shipping paper. In the second segment, we'll cover exceptions to the rules and additional requirements for various modes of transportation. Entries must be clearly printed in English and must be legible on all copies. The entries may be made by hand or by mechanical devices, including signatures. No abbreviations or codes may be used unless specifically authorized by DOT. To start, refer to the DOT regulations in 49 CFR 171 through 180. In 172.101, you'll find the Hazardous Materials table, where proper shipping name, hazard class, identification number, and packing group are listed. You will add the total quantity, shipper certification, emergency response information, and telephone number. The table in column 1 designates such things as the symbol A for air or W for water, if a hazardous material is regulated only in that mode of transportation. If you find a G in column 1, you know you are required to add the technical chemical names when describing the hazardous material. When shipping papers are more than 1 page long, pages are consecutively numbered, and the first page must read page 1 of the total number of pages in the load. For our fictitious shipment, page 1 of 4 pages. Next, fill in the name of the shipper. This is required if the shipment will be transported by water. Now, where is the shipment going? Fill out the exact destination of the consignee here. The consignee is the intended receiver of the HazMat, and the consignor is anyone offering HazMat for transportation. First, list the total number of packages for each type of material. The total quantity per material may be shown before or after the material description. Units of measurement may be abbreviated. The HM column helps to identify HazMat in multiple shipments. As an example, if the load contained 20 drums of a flammable liquid which is not otherwise specified, NOS, containing xylene, and 5 drums of liquid hand soap which is non-hazardous, the HM column can be used to mark the HazMat by placing an X in the column. Or suppose the shipment contained a reportable quantity of an EPA hazardous substance. Because of its potential to harm the environment, the HM column can indicate transportation of a reportable quantity, RQ. That means EPA must be notified if the substance is spilled. This is where you must itemize the shipment. HazMat is listed before non-hazardous material, or indicated by an X in the HM column, or listed in a different color than non-hazardous materials. On shipping paper copies, you may highlight HazMat entries. This communicates quickly which hazards require special handling. The proper shipping name prescribed for the material in column 2 of the table must also be included. In this case, it's chloroform. For waste streams, enter the waste stream number. If a proper shipping name does not identify the material's hazardous component by name, and you see a G in the first column of the HazMat table, the component or components that make the material hazards are entered in parentheses, either following the proper shipping name or after the entire description. For example, motor fuel anti-knock mixtures, tetraethyl lead, or motor fuel anti-knock mixtures, 6.1 UN 16491 tetraethyl lead. An appropriate modifier, such as contains or containing, or the percentage of the technical constituent may be used. For example, flammable liquids, NOS, contain xylene and benzene. If the NOS material is a mixture or solution of 2 or more hazardous materials, technical names of at least 2 of the most prevalent hazardous components are entered either after the basic description or after the packing group number. For example, flammable liquid corrosive NOS contains methanol potassium hydroxide, or flammable liquid corrosive NOS3 UN 29242 contains methanol potassium hydroxide. However, if the NOS description for the material contains the name of the chemical element or group responsible for the material meeting the definition of one of the hazard classes, only the technical name of the component not identified in the NOS description is entered in parentheses. For example, carbamate pesticides, liquid, flammable, toxic, NOS, flash point less than 23 degrees Celsius, contain xylene. The hazard class or division from column 3 of the HazMat table is listed, followed by the class numbers of subsidiary hazards, if any, inside parentheses. The identification number of the material from column 4 of the table must be entered next in sequence. The packing group from column 5 of the table follows. It can be preceded by the letters PG. If there is no group entry for the specific material you are shipping, leave it out. Also in this column, if there is a DOT exception for smaller shipments of a material, it may be noted here. For example, the entry limited quantity, or LTD-QTY, must follow the basic material description if shipping under that exception. Total weight of all packages of each particular material may be listed before or after the basic description. This covers all basic entries. Let's move on to additional descriptors. You may list all required labels for the specific material. For example, for chloroform, a poison label is required. For each item shipped under DOT exemption, enter DOT-E and the exemption number. If all these columns do not appear on the shipping forms you use, remember the sequence in which these items must appear is still the same. The internationally preferred shipping paper sequence is UN number, proper shipping name, hazard class, subsidiary hazard, packing group. Shipping papers must contain one or more emergency response telephone numbers that are monitored 24 hours a day by a knowledgeable person while the shipment is underway. To improve hazard communication, emergency response information must also be added to the shipping paper or delivered along with the shipping paper in the form of a material safety data sheet or emergency response guidance document. Shipper certification is required by a legible signature. This certification or declaration shows that the HazMat offerer classified, described, packaged, marked, and labeled the shipment according to HazMat regulations. No certification is required, however, for HazMat transported by motor vehicle in a cargo tank supplied by the carrier, or if the material is transported by the shipper as a private carrier. If transported material is hazardous waste, complete, date, and sign the appropriate Uniform Hazardous Waste Manifest. Depending on the HazMat or mode of transportation, shipping papers may require special entries. We'll cover those cases in the next segment. Material transported by air is accompanied by 2 copies of the signed certification. A shipment via passenger or cargo aircraft requires the following certification section. This shipment is within the limitations prescribed for passenger aircraft, cargo aircraft only. Line out the appropriate aircraft for each case. When a HazMat package is not allowed aboard a passenger carrying aircraft, the words cargo aircraft only are entered after the basic description of the material. Papers for Class DOT-113 tank cars containing a flammable gas must also contain special notations, DOT-113C, and do not hump or cut off car while in motion. For transportation by water, each shipment's papers must include the identification of the package types such as barrels, drums, cylinders, and boxes. Papers also include the number of each type of package, including those in a freight container or on a pallet, and the gross mass weight of each package or type of package. Even empty packages may require special identification. A package containing HazMat residue may be noted by the words residue, last contained, in conjunction with the basic description of the material that had been in the package. And lastly, no shipping paper certification is required for the return of an empty tank car which previously contained a hazardous material and which has not yet been cleaned or purged. Now for specific types of material. First, radioactive materials. The description of these materials must include the words radioactive material, if not already part of the proper shipping name. and the name of each radionuclide. Radioactive material not in a special form requires a description of the physical and chemical form. For the shipment of a package containing a highway route controlled quantity of radioactive material, the words highway route controlled quantity must be entered. For marine pollutants, if the proper shipping name does not identify the name of the component that makes the material a marine pollutant, place the name of that component in parentheses. When there are two or more such components, at least two of the most predominantly contributing hazards appear in parentheses. If the HazMat is a poison, and its proper shipping name or hazard class does not reveal it is a poison, enter the words poison as part of the material description. Materials poisonous by inhalation require the words poison inhalation hazard and notation of the appropriate zone letter as listed in column 7 of the HazMat table. Lastly, when the proper shipping name for an elevated temperature material does not include the words elevated temperature material, the word hot is written before the proper shipping name. Two exceptions to this are molten sulfur or aluminum. In summary, the information that must be included on shipping papers would at least include the proper shipping name, hazard class, identification number, packing group, total quantity, shipper certification when appropriate, emergency response telephone number.